And so that's why I say I wish I would have met you earlier, because I kind of got burned out of all that, started my own practice and kind of put real estate on the side when, if I had a turnkey guy like you all the way throughout it, I would have kept buying and probably would have had 20 more houses than I have now.
All righty, gang. I have a very special episode for you guys today. One of my oldest clients, someone who believed in us in the beginning to take this wild experiment in real estate. The guest I have for you guys today is Kirk Gibb. Kirk, welcome to the show. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me, Jimmy. Really appreciate it. Love being here with you. I'm Kirk Gibb. We'll get into my story, I'm sure, but I'm a happily married father of a crazy toddler. I'm a partner at a CPA firm that I started about 15 years ago, and got started investing in real estate early on in my career, and wish I would have met Jimmy earlier and would have had him on my team from the get-go. But happy to be here.
Okay, so for the audience, you are a high details, numbers person, professional accountant, right? And now, as a salesperson, me personally, I struggle the most with that personality type. And then because I feel like that personality type struggles to do things out of the ordinary, maybe.
That's true. Yeah. And I guess I'm not your typical accountant in that way. I started out working for a big firm, but early on, realized I wanted to work for myself and needed to kind of get out there and make some mistakes, do things on my own. So I think that's why you and I, we kind of see eye to eye on things that way. I might not be as detail oriented as the next CPA, but I try to bring that analytical approach to it. And you bring the, hey, ready, fire, aim approach to it. Let's get after it, set some goals and make stuff happen. So I think it's been a good partnership that way.
And then for the audience, the first real estate deal you did with me was not your first real estate deal.
Yeah. I grew up on a farm in Central Washington, and because of that, learned to work hard. But I also learned to appreciate the value of tangible assets, things you can see, touch with your hands, things that exist in the real world. And so I think I was always kind of inclined toward that. But in college, I somehow picked up a copy of Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. That kind of opened up a new world for me and potentially pursuing real estate investments. And so, I started right out of the gate. When I graduated college, I tried to scrape together whatever savings I could and started buying property with my brother. And we just started driving around town, trying to find deals. And it was fun. It was a wild ride, but I had enough late nights trying to do electrical work in the dark and getting shocked while trying to rehab houses and get them on the market. And then just trying to manage our own properties. It was ridiculous trying to do that while also trying to grow my career and do things in my active day-to-day job. And so that's why I say I wish I would have met you earlier, because I kind of got burned out of all that. Started my own practice and kind of put real estate on the side when, if I had a turnkey guy like you all the way throughout it, I would have kept buying and probably would have had 20 more houses than I have now.
And what ages were you when you were doing this turn-in hammer yourself?
So I was, like I said, right out of college. So like 25, 26 years old.
This is an idea I got, but tell me what you think about this. Someone 20, 30, even if they're married, what you guys were doing, I think that's what you should have been doing.
Yeah, it was great education, great experience, and it really helped me learn the process beginning to end, from finding the deal, taking down the deal, buying the deal, negotiating it, getting the house rehab. We had some handyman skills, coming from a farm background, so we at least kind of knew a little bit of what we were doing in that. And then the property management side kind of kicked our butts here and there. It was really tough to have difficult conversations with past due renters and things like that. So great education, really learned a lot about it. But like I said, I reached a point where I got burned out. I just couldn't invest that amount of time in it and also do the things I was doing in my personal life and in my career. And so it just got unsustainable.
Because the other thing about doing this when you're young and swinging the hammers yourself when you're young is like, there's not that big of an opportunity cost, family-wise and professionally-wise.
Yeah, there was low barrier to entry for us. We could, I slept on the floor of a few of the houses that I bought for, weeks at a time as we were doing it, because I basically just set up shop and that's where I lived. And so I was able to buy FHA loans, get through FHA loans that way and do things like that. And so I had a lot more flexibility. I didn't have a wife and a family and a mortgage and all that at that time. So it was where I needed to be at the time. But boy, it was a lot to do.
Because, the people we work with now, it's like for you to go swing hammers Now, sure, it would suck and it'd be miserable, but it's just too high of an opportunity cost for what you do professionally. You're too good at what you do to take on that low paying job in real estate.
Yeah, right now my billable rate is such that it just doesn't make sense for me to be mowing lawns and fixing toilets and stuff like that.
It took me a while to get over that attitude. How long did it take you to get over that?
Yeah, probably. I mean, at least 6 or 8 properties. So we're talking, 4, 5, 6 years of slogging through that to where I finally realized, I just, this doesn't work. I can't scale this the way that I'm going to need to in order to get where I want to go.
And honestly, the same thing happened to me. I came home, I got out of the Army, I was swinging hammers horribly, doing stuff myself. And same thing like you, I got burnt out for a while. I wish I could find the people who are burnout and just say, hey, you're doing the right thing. You're just doing it the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's your whole message right there is, hey, change the way you look at this, reframe this, or do things a little differently. And you can still achieve those career goals the way you want to, or your investing goals. Yeah.
And so what year did you say I'm burnt out?
So that was getting on to like end of the 2000s. So 2008, 2009, 2010, right in there.
So you're picking up what's left of the vestiges after the crash, essentially.
Yeah. In fact, our first properties we bought at the peak, like right in 2008, but we bought wisely. We always knew we'd have strong rents, and, we were buying and holding. We weren't trying to flip or do anything like that. So even in the crash, we did fine. And we continued to buy throughout that. We got some bargain properties afterward. And then right around there is when my CPA practice started to pick up steam. And so I was investing crazy amount of hours over there. Just couldn't do the real estate anymore. Couldn't focus on it. Got totally burned out, like I mentioned. And so, yeah, it was right in that, 9, 10, 11 was when I just had to hit pause and kind of walk away from real estate.
Okay. So then your career's growing, you're crushing at work, 2010 through 2000. I think we met in 18.
Yep, 2018.
And so then...
So it was about a 5-year break I probably took between when I met you and kind of when I put what I was doing on hold. Sold out all the properties that I was investing here in locally and took it all that capital and everything I'd been saving throughout that time and just put it all with Jimmy.
Nice. And so were you like, I'm done with this, I'm selling it all? What got you to change direction?
Yeah. I didn't really know that turnkey existed at the time. And then I started meeting some people who were investing out of state, and I just couldn't wrap my head around, not being able to drive by my property, not being able to be there if something went wrong, not knowing where it was or the neighborhood that it was in and things like that. And after I kind of hit pause and backed away from real estate a little bit, I realized I wasn't driving by the properties that I had here locally that were 20 minutes away. So what does it matter if it was 20 minutes away or 2 states away? It was the same thing. So when I got to that, I was like, I guess it doesn't matter for as long as I got a good team and, that I can trust and know that things are being handled the way that I should. I shouldn't have to drive by the property. I shouldn't have to be able to be that involved. And so it was figuring out that I needed to play a specific role in the whole process, and I didn't need to do the whole thing from beginning to end. That was probably the biggest mindset shift. And then learning about turnkey investors, that there are people out there that do all that for you and sell you the end product, and you step in as the passive owner. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, great. I can keep doing this. And so that's when I switched gears and decided to invest with you.
Tell me what you think about this thought, but I think it's almost like a temptation if your house is 20 minutes away. It's like a temptation to waste time, because honestly, whether the house is in St. Louis or 3 blocks away from you and there's a problem, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And so at least if it's far away from you, you don't have the temptation to drive by and be frustrated by it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And have that thought in your head of what you can't control that's sitting 2 blocks down the road and costing you money, or, during a make ready or something like that. Yeah, you're totally right. It kind of puts it out of sight, out of mind, so that I can focus on what I need to be focused on and kind of let you focus on what you do best.
And so I'm going to bring up, for you, the YouTube audience, you guys will be able to see this, but I'm going to bring up your case study. Let me bring this up right here. And I'm just going to go kind of like I think the audience might be interested in the actual timeline of how this went down for you.
Yeah, sure.
So as I go through this, can you see my screen? Okay. So I think you bought 5 or 6 in 2018 and 19.
Yeah, up through that, I bought 11 in total. Over a span of about 3 or 4 years.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I remember you got after it. So 11 in the first 3 to 4 years. And then you kind of took another stabilization period, right?
That's right. Yeah, because even with this, there was still some getting used to the make readies and all the things that would come along. Just getting my systems down. I'm an accountant, but I'm not a tax accountant, and so my taxes were still a mess. I was still trying to get some of those things in order, get my systems down in place so I was comfortable with what was going on. And so yeah, and then yeah, during COVID, just everything was a shake up there. So I took a little bit of a break through 20 and 21, and then started getting back after it in 22. Oh, I also got married around that time. That was probably the biggest thing. Got married and had a kid in 22. So yeah,
congratulations, by the way.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And so in this high buying period, you also had a close associate doing the same thing, right?
That's right.
And so now that you actually ended up buying your close associates' houses. And so maybe we could talk about what was the difference in your mindset where you were like, these are the greatest assets ever. And then his mindset where I hate these assets, get rid of them for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. I still think about that to this day, trying to tease out what the difference is in his mindset versus mine, or in anybody who was apprehensive about doing something like this, and those who are jumping in with both feet. But yeah, we both started at the same time with you. He bought 6 properties, in a relatively short period of time, same kind of thing as me. But it's funny. He just had this mindset that with each time he had a vacancy, with each time there was a make ready come due, he would come to me and I would have to have a counseling session with him. Like, no, it's okay. It's only $5,000. Like, don't worry about it. You got this. Just look down the road and you'll be able to see where you're going to end up. But he couldn't quite, get over that hump, and he just thought he was losing money, losing time. It was too much stress for him and all that. And so, yeah, it just got to a point where he felt he needed out. So he took his portfolio and flipped it to me all in one go, which was good for me.
But he actually sold it. He sold it at a profit, right?
Yeah. He sold them all to me at the market rates that were there at the time. I tried to negotiate kind of
and then why were you willing to buy it at a market rate? You being an experienced investor, you probably have enough savviness to get undervalued.
I was just looking to get my hands on any asset I could. So whether it was a good deal or not, I kind of look at it that, like what you always say, the difference between a good real estate investment and a bad one is like a haircut. It's just a matter of time. And I knew that over time, and it proved true with these properties. First couple of years was a struggle getting them all rented, getting the rents up to where they needed to be. But now they're humming along and they're self-sustaining, going great.
And can you talk about that attitude that you just wanted any property? But if we were to go survey 100 people and they're like, hey, is this nuts or not? I just want any asset. They'd all say it's nuts. Why do you not think it's nuts?
Maybe it is to some degree. And yeah, if I had more time to do more due diligence, and I have my buying criteria, I have my ranges that I think will work. He wasn't trying to fleece me with charging higher rates. But yeah, I just knew I needed to get my hands on as much real estate now as possible, so that 10 years down the line, that's always been the goal. Is how much things can change with appreciation and mortgage pay down and taxes and all that, over a long period of time is really what I was after.
What are your fundamental beliefs? I don't know. Maybe beliefs isn't the right word. Assumptions as to why these will be a solid investment 10 years from now.
Heck, even if it's just the mortgage pay down, that's what I in times what I was struggling with the same way he would, like, oh my gosh, are these really going to pan out for me? I would pull up the bookkeeping and I would enter some, transactions of those monthly mortgages just being paid down. So I knew even if things weren't appreciating, even if I didn't have cash flow, even if I had to make ready at some point, that the tenants were slowly paying down those mortgages. And that's kind of the long-term approach I've always tried to take with real estate. Is I'm not going to get rich overnight. I'm not going to quit my job next week. And I don't even want to. I'm one of those guys that is, I'm going to continue to grow in my career and do all this, but just let these properties chug along. And in 10, 20 years, I'll look up one day and see what they become and see what my portfolio looks like. So I just try to take the long-term approach with everything.
Because technically, if you put 20% down on a house, the mortgage pay down is going to give you a 5 times return inevitably as you go through the life of that loan. So like, to me, the guaranteed money is, oh, cool. The tenant's going to pay down 80% of the mortgage. And then,
without you having to do anything, basically.
And then historically, you can assume a 5% appreciation on the house over the 10 years, every year for the 10 years you hold it. Like the house will double in value every 20 years. So it'll increase in value by 50% in those 10 years. And then I have a lot of new people asking me about the tax benefits. You're not a tax accountant, but you are an accountant. How do you, in my mind, the taxes are the third best benefit of the 4 ways you win. The cash flow is the last best benefit. And so from an accountant's perspective, how do you look at the tax benefits, and have you done the cost seg, and have you done all that stuff yet?
Not yet. As a matter of fact, that's the leg of the stool that I probably ignored most to this point. And that's probably because, I do have a high W-2 income. And so, I kind of get screwed with taxes no matter what. But now, especially with the new tax legislation coming online now, and the bonus depreciation and what that's going to do for real estate investors. Yeah, Jimmy and you talked a couple months ago about this, and that's the next thing I'm planning on doing is getting cost segregation studies done on all my properties. And then we're also in talks with potentially my wife getting real estate professional status and managing the portfolio and really being able to get some tax savings through things like that.
Yeah, that could get, and then that's the other thing I don't think people understand. It's like, they get sad that they can't take the instant tax benefit year one, right? Mm-hmm. But tell me if I'm wrong, because you're the accountant, but you essentially are building up a tax savings account with your portfolio. And you're going to be able to pull that lever whenever you choose to pull that lever.
And then take all those historical losses that I've been, taking all along. And as soon as you can switch those from, active to passive or passive to active, whatever it is, then that's when those tax benefits are really going to start kicking in, down the line.
And so I'm going to bring up your case study again and show the audience the highlights. Oh, here we go. I am going to blow this up for the YouTube audience. Okay. So I believe 14 assets, right? I also got it here.
19.
19. Sorry, 19. 19 assets. Ooh. You invested a total of $451,000, and with your cumulative 4-pillar return, appreciation, tenant equity paydown, tax savings at the low non-cost segue, and cash flow, you're at a $1.2 million return. So 276% return on your portfolio in a little over 6 years, and a big part of the portfolio only under 3 years.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy to look back at it. Yeah.
And I would love to take credit for it, but we just did the blocking and tackling.
Yeah,
the asset class does what the asset class does.
Yep. There's no magic in this. This isn't a skill. It's not like I'm better than the next guy down the line. It does what it does. And
no offense, but you really didn't get great deals. You didn't beat me down on price. You didn't scour the streets to find the cheapest property. This was available. I trust the macroeconomic system that real estate is. I'm going to go.
Yep, exactly.
Now, I do know current property manager or current property owners. Let's talk about a couple of non-fun. I'd love you to be on the podcast and be like, Kirk, everything's been awesome for you the entire time we ever worked together. But that's not true, right?
That's not true.
So let's talk. We talked about the good. Let's talk about some of the bad and the ugly. And so potential. Now, cash collection, you've done great. The potential cash you should have collected was one point. How do you say that? 1.04.
104.
But we predicted you have collected $1,046,000. You've actually collected $1,098,000 in rent. So that's good. Expected amount to pay on repairs. We would have expected you to pay $110,000 on repairs right now, but you spent $150 on repairs. And then you've spent another $50 on make ready. But even with that, the portfolio still cash flowed $140,000. How come the repair expense and the make ready, you're not like, I hate this?
Yeah, no, there have been times where I'm like, oh my gosh, another tree removal. I think we just did one of those on one of my properties this week, and the neighbors calling, wondering when we're going to get that tree out of the yard or whatever it is, or make readies. But when you have 19, 20 properties going, it seems like there's always one of those in the pipeline, and that's just part of the game. But one thing that changed my mindset on that was our last call where we went through this exact case study, where you look at the return on cash invested, that next line, that line 28, where it's not just a make ready where you're just getting the property back to serviceable or rentable. It's an investment in that property that then you can increase the rents on the next tenant coming in and realize a return on that invested cash. And that is never something I thought about before. And so calculating that out from the point that we invested this amount to how much rents have increased down the line, that was something that was a revelation for me to say, oh yeah, it's still another investment. It's not just an expense.
Well, and if you think about it, the way this investment works is you're going to make a lot of money on appreciation, but it's an unrealistic expectation to think that your house is going to appreciate if you never reinvest in it over the course of the 10 years. And then now help me out here. Technically on your profit and loss statement, it doesn't even go into your P&L. It goes onto your balance sheet as a reinvestment, right?
That's right.
I think where new investors get messed up, and people, like when I was an employee, I never looked at a P&L. I looked at my household budget and how much money we had to save at the end of the month. That's it. It struggled for me that cash was going out of my bank account, but on my balance sheet, technically I was wealthier, or at least staying the same, because on your balance sheet, it goes from cash to a new air conditioning unit. And then what's that called in the accounting term?
It's a capitalization of those costs. It's an increase in the asset that you own. So yeah, it's just shifting it from one side of the balance sheet to the other, from the cash account to the property and equipment account, where that's going up. So cash balance is going down, but you're reinvesting to increase the value of your investments.
And then help me out here, because everybody feels good when they're very liquid and have cash. Right? But from your opinion as just Kirk Gibb, or your opinion as an accountant, how should someone be measuring their wealth? Like, how are you advise your clients to measure their wealth? Because it can't be cash balance, because cash is depreciating at 8% a year.
Yeah.
Because of inflation.
You and I see eye to eye on that inflation thing, which is also one of the reasons why I wanted to just get my hands on as many houses as I could, because I knew the value of cash was going to be going down. I knew the value of the houses was going to be going up. And so, yeah, you can't just look at the cash account. You've got to be looking at appreciable assets and have that be your focus.
Accredited investors, if you're looking for quality real estate to put in your portfolio that is pushing 30 to 40% in annual returns, well, I'm glad you're watching this ad, because I bring my investors about 400 of those deals every year, and all the due diligence is already completed. We also have all the lending lined up, and we have the construction and property management already set and ready to go. And it's all in-house, all done start to finish by my team. All you got to do is review the deal, write the check, show up at closing, and you're done. And the best part is there's no equity splits. You own the asset 100%. My team gets paid to do the things you were already going to pay for anyway, like having someone find the deal, fix up the deal, and manage the house for the long term, or offload the deal for a flip. So if you want to invest in real estate and you want to build a portfolio on autopilot, or maybe just flip a few houses with a vertically integrated team doing all the work for you, A to Z, click the link. There's more information on how this works on the next page, and the option to book a call with us to discuss working together. I mean, I fall prey to this all the time, where, especially when I was a new business owner, I was doing checking account accounting and thinking I was either rich or poor based on my cash balance.
Yeah.
But like, do you think it's like a temptation to look at it this way? Like, why do you think, because it does feel good. Why do you think people do that?
Yeah, I think it's just the lack of that higher level of understanding of what an asset is, what a liability is, what an expense is, what income truly is, and what wealth is, how one becomes wealthy, how one becomes financially free.
If you were to talk to yourself like 19, what would you have said to yourself about make readies and repairs? What advice would you give yourself or somebody new about make readies and repairs?
Yeah, that they're not just a necessary evil; they're an actual investment in the long-term viability of the property. It's something like it. like the home you live in, if you never update anything, if you never make any improvements, and you still have the 70s shag carpet when you try to sell it, you're not going to get the price that you otherwise might.
Well, it won't appreciate.
And it won't appreciate, exactly.
And so for the YouTube audience, what we do for our clients is we show what they spend on make ready, and because people are always like, I'm not going to get my money back, the $5,000 I put into my make ready, and I'm like, no, that's false. And I credit whatever rent increase you get to the reinvestment on the make ready. Let's take an example, just a random one of your houses. All right, so you spent $8,600 on make readies on Jocelyn, and the rent has gone up. What do we got here? The rent has gone up from $1,150 to $1,450. So you've had a 25% rent increase. And so I look at that, I multiply that amount times 12 for the year. And so you've had a 42% return on that cash. And then if you look at your whole portfolio on your make ready, you've had a 90% return on cash because you've had that much rent increase.
Rent increase. Yeah. And that was what I was not understanding when I was writing those checks, and they were painful. I wasn't looking at the next year down the line of what of that I would be able to recover.
So it's almost like a fee you pay to attract a new great quality resident, because the competition for these houses, somebody else is repairing every house every year too, and they can bounce to that.
Yep, exactly.
So cool. Well, I ask everybody on the show who comes down that have been our clients, like, what would you say that the greatest lesson you've learned because you invested in real estate? What would you say that is?
The greatest lesson I've learned.
And it could be investing. Like, I learn stuff in real estate all the time that I'm able to apply to real life. Like, for example, being patient and having a low time preference for cash. I would have never learned that unless I invest in real estate.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. I think I brought some of that with me. I knew I was, investing for the long term. I think validation of all those things, all the values I was raised with, and all that, it's all around.
As a farmer, your dad had a regular job. So the farmland was not for cash flow. The farmland was a long-term family asset, right?
The farm was his full-time job, although he did other things as well. He was always, starting something, doing
But he was
something.
an accountant too, right?
Yeah. So he did taxes in the wintertime. He was a flight instructor. I mean, he was always up to something.
But do farmers expect their farms to cash flow every year?
I would say typically no. Like you said, most people are dirt poor. Like, all of their savings and investment is in the ground, and you don't realize any of that, until a longer time horizon.
And then when I looked at it, I was like, wait a minute, if that's how farmers have done this for, like, say, probably the last 500 years, like, why would I think that I could do any better with 1,000 square foot house?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And that helped my mindset a lot in the beginning once I figured that out.
Yeah, and I think the other big thing for me is what you've been preaching lately is that, investing for cash flow is not the end all be all. I think part of me got into it with that, like, okay, great. If I get this much per month, I need this many houses to pay my expenses, and then I'll be financially free or quit my job or whatever. And I quickly realized that's not really the case, and it's not really what you want in this. This is more a vehicle for investing and learning and growing, developing skills that can then be applied elsewhere in your life, make yourself more productive, raise your income in other areas of life to then continue to reinvest and grow your portfolio as well, rather than just looking for a quick out of the rat race, as it were.
And then I talk about that a lot lately, but I think that's a pure temptation, like a bad temptation.
Yes.
Part of me is like, I understand you want security, but technically you wouldn't get your security from real estate from cash flow. You'd get your security from real estate from being able to sell the equity. So even cash flow is not really a security play. I think I call it resident reinvestment, because technically it was your prior residence paying for your new residence with the make readies.
Okay.
And so I'm kind of, as you go along in this, like, you kind of start chewing on these types of things.
Yeah. It changes the way you think. The principles are still there and they're still valid, but your reframing of how that applies to you and what the next step is because of that, it changes. So I'm not necessarily chasing cash flow. I'm more balance sheet focused, more equity focused.
But the other thing is, you're too successful to chase cash flow.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to tell the audience what you make, but what you make you're just not going to be able to replace with $300 to $400 a door, even $1,000 a door. You're not going to be able to replace it. Because quite frankly, if you weren't able to get that much money to get that much houses to be able to do that, once again, you're making too much money. You become too productive. So it's like a chimera. It's like a false illusion to even chase it.
Yeah, no, and I love the reframing that's happened on that with me over the last few years in working with you.
Well, cool. Well, I know you're a busy man, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and talk to the audience. If anybody wants to know more about you, or you're trying to promote your accounting firm, how would someone get a hold of you?
Yeah, sure. Go to our website, sadlergibb.com. That's our CPA firm website there. You'll be able to reach me through that.
What type of accounting do you guys specialize in?
So we do everything from personal taxes all the way up through more complicated corporate stuff. I work more on the corporate side of things, so not necessarily in individual taxes and stuff like that. But yeah, we've got something for everybody, and anybody who needs help in that area, reach out. And yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Really great to be able to talk to you today.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jimmy.
And then for the audience out there, if you guys have found value in this episode and you'd like to get off the sidelines, click the link that you'll see in the show notes, get on a call with one of my team members, and let's start building a rental portfolio. See you guys. So if you like what you heard today and you want to learn more, sign up for a discovery call with one of the Vreeland Capital success coaches at jimmyvreeland.com.